It's a lot of stuff to test for one video, so let's get straight into it. The main head unit comes with a rubberized, it's quite soft, it's quite nice, handle, a shoulder strap, and some paraphernalia for hooking them on, so you'll need to attach those down on your shaft here. The pole chainsaw attachment comes with a cute little tool for adjusting your chain, as well as 76 milliliters of bar lubricant. 76 milliliters, of course, being the optimum amount of oil to put in your chainsaw. The weed eater or line trimmer attachment comes fully loaded and comes with some spare line and of course a guard which looks flimsy but is actually pretty damn tough, and some gear to put it on with. Comes with a tool for getting your blade on and off. G'day everyone, welcome back to another review. You guys wanted outdoor power equipment, so here it is, some OPE gear from Milwaukee. The days are getting longer here, they're getting hotter, hopefully they'll start getting drier soon, so it's time to get into the outdoor stuff. You've just seen in the intro there all the stuff that's going to be in this video. It's a lot to get through, I'll try not to waffle too much. 6 pieces in total that I'm testing today. The power head, the extension pole, and the 4 attachments you've just seen. We'll take a closer look at the 4 attachments in a moment before we use each one. For those of you who are regulars to the channel, you may recall a few weeks ago I asked, would you be okay if I accepted some free tools from a major tool company? And overwhelmingly you guys said yes, sweet, go for it. Well, this is what I was referring to. All of the tools you're about to see in this video were all given to me free of charge, gratis, for nix, nada, nothing, by Milwaukee. Well, not the batteries. The batteries in the video are mine. But all the tools came from Milwaukee free of charge. If at any point you want more information about these, take a look down in the description. If you want to know the prices, I'm not going to say them because they always change all the time, don't they? So I'll put some links down below and you can click on those if you want to know the price of each individual item. This system is based on, you buy a power head, you then buy whichever attachment you want. So if you want a weed eater and a pole saw, you can just buy those 2 and you're done. If you then later on think this pole saw is a bit short, you can buy an extension rod for it, that sort of thing. So it's an add to system, just like you would buy batteries and add all the other power tools to it. It's a system within a system, and a lot of the companies are doing it now. But that's enough talk, let's get into the actual tool. This is the main unit of the tool. Without this you can't do anything. As you can see, it's also got a 12 amp hour battery on it. That's what it looks like without the battery. If you're not from down under, the batteries where you are might look a bit different, but this is what they look like down here. This thing has 2 speeds, currently on Turtle. Push it again, it goes on to Bunny Rabbit, which presumably is slow and fast. The safety trigger here, when your hand comes in, it's got to push that down, pull the trigger, away you go. Fairly easy. All your attachments go in this end here. This is what Milwaukee call the quick lock system. You grab your attachment, screw side down, shove it in. It locks like so in place. Give it a bit of a tug, yeah, not coming out. And you can tighten it up further with this knob on the side. Pretty simple. When you want to release them, you just undo your knob, push your button, out they comes. Simple. And you've got a front handle here which is nice and soft and squidgy. That's right, squidgy. And you can move that up and down and put it wherever it suits you for your body shape and type. And we've also got a hook here for a shoulder strap. Now, which attachment am I gonna test first? I'd also be interested to know what other attachments you guys would like to see on this particular system. Garden's a bit out of control. I've deliberately let it grow wild so that I could test this tool. that's my story and I'm sticking to it. I think the weed eater is probably the best place to start. Here is the weed eater head. I call it a weed eater because that's what we always call it growing up down here in this part of the world, but you might call it a strimmer or a line trimmer. Officially, like on the box, it's called a line trimmer. Guard, obviously, and then we've got a blade here for cutting your line to length. Now, I thought, why is it sharp on both sides? Well, that's because if you have it at this point here, it will cut your line at 355 millimeters. Take these two screws out, swivel this 180 degrees, and you'll get it to cut 406 millimeters. 406 millimeters seems a very precise number. Anyway, so that's what your blade's for. Now this is a twin line cutter, one line coming out each side there, preloaded with a twisted sort of line here. I think it's 2.4 millimeters. They give you another bundle of it here. This will take 2 millimeters and 2.4 millimeter cable. So not really heavy duty stuff, but not the really tiny stuff either. And being that it's got the two lines rather than one, some of the smaller cheaper ones only have one line, should hopefully be good enough, certainly good enough for what I need. You're not going to be taking down small trees or anything with this, but it'll do any sort of, but it should do any sort of weed perfectly fine. We'll find out shortly, won't we? Do I want to go into pulling this all apart and showing you how it all works on the inside? When it's already all nicely ready to go? I think we'll leave it until I need to change it. If I need to change it at some point during the video, then we'll have a look inside. Now these things release line when the bottom here is bumped. So as you're cutting, just pull the trigger, tap that on the ground, and your line shoots out. When it hits the blade there, it'll cut it to the right length, and away you go. There's no metal or anything on this to extend its life. It's fairly flat. There's not even a big raised bit in the center or anything. It'll be interesting to see how long that lasts. If you're whacking this on concrete too often, they wear out pretty damn quick. Right, what else do you need to know about that? I've got an oiling area here on the side. All of the attachments you'll see in this video have one of these for periodic maintenance of the tool, sticking a bit of grease in there. Right, I think that's about it. I'll let you know about this while we're here. This is a hook that comes with each individual attachment. They all come with one of these. This is to help you store your tools. Slides on like so, clips up, and then you hook it on your wall. Quite cool that they've included those. And I will have to make some room for that in my new shed I'm building out the back. Anyway, let's go cut some weeds, as is a weed eater's one. Don't think I'm going to be able to wear my jandals in this video at any point. Now I've found that you don't really need the slow speed, certainly not with the weed eater here. You can just stick it on the fast speed because it's got a variable speed trigger. Parts of this property are a bit of a construction site that got neglected over winter. Time to tidy it up. When you use these things, from time to time the line will snap off right where it comes out of the tool, and you'll have to open it up to get it to come back out the hole, else you'll keep bumping it and it will unwind potentially inside there and cause a mess. So yeah, I guess we get to look inside this thing a bit quicker than I thought. So let's have a look-see. There is a button here and another one on the opposite side there. Push those in, this will pop up. And then I'll pull the whole thing out, we'll start again, eh? So while I've got this off, I'm going to see just how hard it is to thread the line on. That's an important feature when it comes to these tools. So I'll get this off and then we will thread it back through and see how tricky it is. Now I have done something not usually done by the male of the species. I have read the manual just to see how this works so that I get it right on film. Don't want to make myself look like a knob. On the bottom here you've got these two red marks which aren't quite so red anymore, but you line those up with the red marks on the base here, which are in line with the holes. Got our red marks in line like so. I've measured out my line. It tells you how long you need to do it in the manual, and then in theory you just thread it through till it pops out the other side. Holy shit, that was easy. It actually worked. Pull it through so that you've got an even amount on each side. Then once you have an even amount on each side, you just wind it in. It says which direction to wind on here, so you just go like this. And there we go. Much easier than most of the weed eaters I've used. Cabbage tree leaves. Am I right? If you don't live in New Zealand, you may not know what I'm talking about. Right, next attachment. I think we're going to go with the edger next. We'll give you the summary and what I think of all these tools at the end. I think that's the way we'll do it. If you've never used one of these, they can be a little bit scary. This is a metal blade designed to run along the side of a concrete path, driveway, that sort of thing. You've got an adjustable wheel here for the height, so you can increase and decrease the depth of cut with that. We'll start it up high like that. And yeah, you walk along running this next to your concrete path, being careful not to lift it up and go directly on top of concrete, else, yeah, fun, fun, fun. That was a bit of a workout for it. Well, that did the job, and so what's next? Next is the hedge trimmer, which comes with a pretty mean looking piece of equipment this. It has a nice simple way of adjusting the cutting head. Just pull this down, pull down, give it a turn, lock it into place again. Lots of different angles there. 13 angles in total, plus you can spin it right round and lock it in this position straight with the blade. Reduces the amount of space it takes up if you're going to store it or ship it. And on the other end here we have a hand protector area. Your hand would be on the other side. Helps stop sticks and branches and shit from spiking you in the hand. Let's go see how she cuts. And last but not least, we have the pole chainsaw. I love pole saws. They're one of my favorite, if not my favorite, outdoor power equipment thing. Tool's probably the word. So yeah, as you can see, pretty basic. It's got a hook on it, which is good because the one I use all the time doesn't. And every time I use it, I think, I've got to put a hook on this damn thing. Those are great for getting branches down. When you've cut something and it gets stuck up there and you just need to try and whip it down. Or tiny little branches are in your way that you can just snap off with those so that you can get the chainsaw in to do the proper cutting. Yeah. Apart from that, it's a chainsaw. And I'll chuck some oil into it and we'll start cutting some shit, eh? This is where my 76 milliliters of chain bar lubricant comes into action. They're a little bit mean with the oil. They could have given you enough for one fill, eh? Instead of half a fill. Oh well. Better than nothing, I suppose. How on earth am I going to reach up there? That ought to do it. Right, I've given them all a try out, but before I give you any verdicts on what I think of them, I need to do a bit more testing. I want to do some battery runtime tests, and I don't want to chop everything down on this property, so I'm going to go and find someone else who I can chop down their stuff. I'll put in a couple of days of garden maintenance work and we'll see how the batteries go and see how these feel over time. So I'm going to see how long these batteries last today. I'm on quite a large property at the moment. I'm going to start with a 12 amp hour battery on the left. I'm just going to see how much work I can actually get done. I'll film all of it hopefully, and I'll just speed it up so you can see how much I actually get done. So I've done some hedges, as well as some weed eating and some edges of the path here. And let's take a look at how much battery we've used. So we're 1 bar down, and now I've got the chainsaw attachment on. So slight mishap there. We just saw the film end. That is because the camera, when I went back to it, I thought, woohoo, I've just got the battery dying on film, and I went back to the camera and it wasn't running. It had shut itself down, and I thought, oh shit, ran out of battery. Changed the battery out, still wouldn't go. And yeah, problem with the camera, I'm guessing it overheated. It had been sitting out in the sun for a few hours. Anyway, I got home, I fiddled around, charged up the batteries again, let it sit for a bit, and now it seems to be functioning again, so fingers crossed it stays that way. Don't want to have to replace the camera just yet. I'll check that in a moment. Anyway, so about 2 minutes, I'd say, around 1 to 2 minutes after that film cut, that's when this battery conked out. So I got a fair bit done with that battery. But that's the biggest battery you can get, of course, so if you're using a small battery, you're not going to get a lot done. I'm still going to use it a bit more, and I will sum it up shortly. Pure massacre. Right, it's been a few weeks now, and what do I think of these things? Well, they say you should learn something every day, and I did learn something while using these tools. I learnt what a scrench was. Edger attachment, blade, and scrench. Scrench. Huh. Many of you will be familiar with these. They come with every chainsaw around and a few other tools. And yeah, I've never really thought about them having a name, never really cared. But thanks to a Milwaukee box, I now know what this is called. Right, there's a lot to get through here, so let's try and whack through it. The quick lock system, it works pretty good. I've had a few little issues where sometimes they don't quite line up and you've got to wiggle it around a bit to get it to go in, and sometimes I have to pull the trigger on the power head just to get them to line up. Particularly with this, I noticed. Not a huge deal. If you're changing them backwards and forwards a lot of times every day, then it could get annoying, but not that big a deal. We'll go through these one by one, seeing as I'm talking about this now. We'll start with this. If you're used to using a standalone one of these, like an Atom one, like I am, then it's not that comfortable to use over time. You've got to walk a bit funny to use it, as you may have seen me do in the video. With the Atom one, you can walk behind it normally like you would normally walk this. You're sort of a bit sideways, and yeah, perfect though for around the house, that sort of thing, small jobs. You're doing hundreds and hundreds of meters though, might get a bit uncomfortable. Pole chainsaw is a little bit rough, but plenty of power. All of the tools had plenty of power. Milwaukee tools, as you know, they throw everything into the power, and so there's plenty of oomph in all of these. I started off using the tools in the fast mode for everything, and then realized how quick the battery was going down, and later on, as I got used to them, I was using the slow speed a lot more. You can basically use them all on the slow speed, and that has enough power. It's also a variable speed trigger, so you can have it set in either setting and just judge the speed depending on what you want with your finger. You do have to have your finger pressed quite hard though to get the full speed. Any little slight movement of your finger and the speed drops off. But yeah, the slow speed is pretty good. And while we're just talking about that, when you do want to change between slow and high speed, if you want to look at the little light on the handle, well, that's a waste of time because it's a white light on a white background. So unless you're standing in deep shade, you can't see the thing. But that doesn't really matter. It's not that hard to tell whether you're in fast or slow. Just push the button, pull the trigger. So the chainsaw, not quite as smooth as some other chainsaws I've used, but does the job. With the pole extension, it is 2.6 meters long. If you're in the States, get out your calculator. With the pole extension on the Hedge trimmer, you get 2.9 meters. Those measurements are from the trigger on the power head to the tip of the blade on each one. So the extension can only be used on those two tools, the Hedge trimmer and the pole saw. I mean, it'd be ridiculous putting it on the other two anyway. So the Hedge trimmer, plenty of angles, that's all good. Good length blade, good cutting power. I jammed it a couple of times, but not much. I'm more than happy with it. The Hedge trimmer is a little bit uncomfortable to use with the trigger because of the way you're sort of moving around with a Hedge trimmer and the angles that you have it on. It's a little bit tricky with the trigger, and I find my hand sliding off to the side to do it, to get on the right angles, and that just makes it a little bit uncomfortable with the stupid little flicky thing on the top of the handle. Once you've got it down, this thing kind of pops back up if you're holding it sort of in a weird angle, and that can come back up. This one might end up with a tools and stuff deletion, but I'm not telling you to do that. But this area is fine for everything else when you're holding things straight, but when you're sort of getting on a bit of an angle like this, which I was doing with the Hedge trimmer, it just becomes a little bit tricky and a little bit uncomfortable on the wrist. But for the other three tools, it wasn't a problem. And then lastly, the Weed Eater, which it's probably been my favourite. It's certainly been the one I've used the most. It's got plenty of power. It's amazing how much power you can get out of 18 volt tools these days. I find that the Weed Eater uses the most power. This really sucks through the juice. If you've got it on high speed, you go through the batteries pretty damn fast. If you're using them for commercial purposes, you'd need a few batteries. I'm thinking you'd probably need about 3 12 amp hours to be safe to get you through the day, depending on what you're doing. If you're using this all day, you might need a bit more. But it's so nice not having the smell and the heat associated with a petrol one. Using Weed Eaters in the past, and you've got the motor right up near your head basically. It's just behind your back there, and it's stinking away with your two-stroke. And the thing gets hot, and it's the middle of summer, and the temperature's already 30 degrees, or if you're in Australia, it's already 40 degrees, and then you've got this stinking hot motor right next to you, occasionally touching your arm or your back and burning you. It's not pleasant. But of course you don't have that problem with any of these. I never used the harness. I never felt I needed to, because the tools are so light you don't really need it. Maybe some people will want it with certain tools. if you're using them all day, every day, but yeah, they're so light and well balanced, you don't really need that. I find I use a harness with the handlebar type weed eaters because the weight of the motor at the back pulls it down, and yeah, they're quite awkward to hold it like that. Your hand's not in the right place to balance the thing. So I do use them for that, but I haven't needed it for these. And the string it comes with is pretty durable. It's lasted really well. Haven't had to bump too much. The base here has a lot of concentric circles on it here from scoring from when you bump it, but not too bad. It'll be interesting to see how long that lasts. But I have enjoyed using that, whacking through a heap of shit, and I've still got a lot of shit to annihilate with that. Sound wise, you can use them all without earmuffs. You will have seen me using earmuffs in the film because I do get annoyed at the whiny noises of some tools over time. Plus I'm always listening to music, that's why I have the earmuffs on. Now's the perfect time to get all this gear, of course, if you are down under, because we're coming into summer. Get the garden cleaned up, get the barbie out, sink a few drinks, and enjoy summer. So if you want more information about any of these, or you want the prices, you want to buy one, if you're in New Zealand, take a look down in the description below. I'll put links to anywhere else in the world that I can find them. If you like tool reviews, remember to subscribe. Thanks again for watching, guys. Cheers to Milwaukee for sending me this gear. Hopefully it lasts. I'll do another review in maybe a year or something. We'll see how everything's going. If you're new here, I put out tool reviews on this channel every week and on my other channel as well, which will be up in the top corner and down in the description. So hopefully I will see you all again this time next week. Cheers, guys.